I feel like it's been eternity since I last watched Miracle Workers. I thought that it has ended, but one day, the ad for the fourth season flashed for me on social media. I dedicated the half of the video a couple of years ago to the season 1 and 2 of the series, like a small recap, so you can check it out. What I want to do in this video is concentrate attention more on the evolution of the series, setting and humor. As we remember, this series is an anthology. That is, the main core of the cast remains the same, everything else changes. All that can come to mind, like setting, time, roles, subordination, relationships between characters. There's no line connecting the seasons with each other. Perhaps the most famous example of an anthology in modern cinema is the American Horror Story series. The first season was based on the book What in God's Name by Simon Rich. The action of the new comedy series takes place in the sky, in the main building of the Heavenly Office. God decides to retire from all affairs and finally go to a well-deserved rest. Before going on vacation, he decided to destroy the earth because he is completely disillusioned with the people inhabiting it. Two lower-ranking angels, Craig and Eliza, who work in a prayer reception department, strongly disagree with this decision. They decide to make a deal with God, according to which he will spare humanity, and they promise him that they will be able to perform an incredible miracle: help two people fall in love. The roles of the angels Craig and Eliza in the television series were played by Daniel Radcliffe. Radcliffe was offered a role after the film Swiss Army Man, and Geraldine Viswanathan, who work in a special department responsible for answering a ton of incoming prayers. Steve Buscemi got the role of God. Initially, the role of Craig's boss and God was to be played by the American actor Owen Wilson. The second season of The Miracle Workers is also based on Simon Rich's work, but on a completely different story. The action will now move to the Middle Ages. Steve Buscemi plays the role of farmer Elisha Chavler. His surname is telling. He's engaged in the dirtiest work in the village. He cleans up after everyone, exactly what his last name tells us. Geraldine Viswanathan plays the role of his daughter Alexandra, with the same lovely last name. The girl wanted to study at the university and change the type of activity that passed in their family from generation to generation. But the university turned out to be a scam. They took the money, issued a diploma, but forgotten to teach something. Or they just didn't want to. Alexandra had to continue the work of her father, improving it. John Bass in the sequel is the dim-witted son of Elisha Chavler. Daniel Radcliffe will appear as the prince, the son of the tyrant ruler. He constantly disappoints his father because dogs fascinate him much more than running a state. Despite the fact that all events take place in the Middle Ages, we see that the heroes are joking about what worries all of us. Writer and showrunner Simon Rich explained that he decided to move the action to the Middle Ages because ignorance was widespread at that time. I thought that I could, through the period of time, use metaphors to reveal the problems of modern society. He also admitted that he was inspired to write the script by a project such as the British BBC historical comedy Blackadder.
Right, Maurice, let's try, shall we? This is called adding. If I have 2 beans, and then I add 2 more, what do I have?
Some beans.
And viewers will see references to this sitcom in the series. He is also a big fan of the British comedy troupe Monty Python. I would say that there is not so much medieval satire in The Miracle Workers, and the bias goes towards a modern view of things. I said this 2 years ago, but I liked the second season much more than the first one. It has more locations, more movement and action, but you can watch both. They're easy enough to understand and do not burden the viewer with heavy humor. Series of 20 minutes are perfect for binge watching. I like to watch something like this while crafting something. When the writers asked us actors what we wanted from the new season, all I asked was for more shared scenes with Daniel. And they accepted it. So we go all the way side by side, says Steve Buscemi. Rich did not take part in the work on the third season of Miracle Workers. He was replaced by Dan Merck and Robert Padnick, who wrote several episodes for the first seasons. However, despite this and the fact that events have again changed the time and place of action, now it is the Wild West. The usual miraculous plot structure has remained the same. The dynamic duo, represented by the invariably neurotic Daniel Radcliffe and the impenetrably self-confident Geraldine Viswanathan, still energized the whole action. Radcliffe this time played the role of the Reverend Ezekiel Zeke Brown. leading his people like Moses through the desert to the promised Oregon. And Geraldine played the aspiring suffragette, the prudent Prudence, freeing herself from the shackles of the patriarchal marriage. The heroes, as in the first season, pursue clearly defined goals: to save the inhabitants of a small town dying from drought in the Midwest and reach Oregon. Other regular members of the cast changed roles again. Steve Buscemi played the role of the legendary criminal on the run, Benny the Teen, who, in order to escape, agreed to lead the settlers to the west. Karen Sony played his sinister stalker, and
Dingus, what are you doing here?
Well, I'm not just a bounty hunter, Benny. I'm also a bargain hunter. Really? You're not gonna laugh at that? Huh? I'm putting myself out there trying to be funny in this heat. Well, anyway.
nicknamed the Gunslider, while John Bass played Prudence's pampered husband, who justifies his existence in the series with an abundance of gags. In the spirit of previous seasons, the setting doesn't make us to take the Wild West seriously. The image is extremely sharp and so clean that it seems that you can see your reflection in it. Some signs of the Western still remain. The sun constantly shines at the faces of the heroes, the tumbleweeds fly into the frame every now and then, but they all serve more as a playful reference to the classic. This is quite in the spirit of the Miracle Workers, recreating historical eras only to talk about the present. As in the second episode of the series, superficial Wild West travel bloggers appear, roaming after sensations, and so on. The original title of the series, Miracle Workers: The Oregon Trail, refers to the educational computer game The Oregon Trail, created in the 70s and popularized in American schools. The game was designed to tell school children about the life of American settlers traveling along the famous Oregon Trail. Merck and Patnick painstakingly copied Rich's scheme, except that they swapped Buscemi and Karen Sony in it, whose characters used to be something like an imp sitting on the main character's left shoulder, usually played by Radcliffe. Zeke's violent faith and moral purity will be texted for strength by the name of Benny the Teen, a killer of people of all ages and genders with a gloomy sense of humor and a bottle always in store filled with skepticism and disbelief in a good beginning of man. Miracle Workers taught the audience to a complete lack of intrigue. Every season ended with the moral enlightenment of the main characters, and this fate probably awaits the characters of the Oregon Trail, and to the fact that the path that they travel is really important. A path accompanied by sentiment and irony that reduces their effect. And this can be seen in the new season, which unexpectedly presents an off-plot intrigue that will be revealed only in the final. Will Merck and Patnick be able to take the chance and add a new unknown to the already familiar equation? Or will they remain sitting in chairs with the inscription Simon Rich? My personal impressions of the third season? It was good, in the style of the first two. I even laughed out loud at some of the jokes instead of quietly giggling. But in some moments, especially in the final, it was a little disgusting. Some jokes went way too far. But of course, I liked Daniel Radcliffe's dance, as well as the song performed by him.
She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes.
Yes, the Western style is done well enough, but I have a complaint. Wasn't it possible to try a little harder when filming on the green screen? Well, in some scenes it cuts the viewer's eyes so much it literally hurts. Yes, during the montage they tried to mask this moment with frequent gluing, but it is still noticeable. But more than that, the series fulfills its entertaining satirical function. I did some crafts again while watching and it was not boring, so overall I can recommend the season. Since Miracle Workers is based on an anthology format, it was completely impossible to predict what will happen in the upcoming season until the first season was released. At the end of October 2022, it became known that the fourth season, which received the subtitle End Times, will be devoted to the theme of post-apocalypse and will be made in the style of Mad Max. At the time of writing the script, only the first episode of the fourth season was released. Right from the first frame, you can say that this is kind of a mix of the Fallout game, especially the desert is similar to Fallout 2 and Mad Max. But then the series surprises with a twist, and satire on modern society begins again. We'll see what the season turns out to be like, but in general expectations are at an average level as in the seasons before. Overall, I've already expressed my opinions that this series deserves your time. The episodes are short, the plots are interesting, the jokes are for different tastes. Therefore, if you want something fairly light for evening viewing, then Miracle Workers is perfect for this. Watching the good movies, and maybe some videos from my channel.
She'll be coming round